I recently hit 1,000 subscribers, so to celebrate, I wrangled up 9 other devs to bring you 10 tips from 10 indie game devs. All of the devs are going to be linked in the description in the order that they appear. Please go check them out, subscribe to them, look at their projects, and make sure to subscribe to me and like the video if you want to see more content like this. Without further ado, let's get into tip number 1.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am the handsome, charming rogue, Pupa. And today I'm going to show you some different shading techniques for your pixel art. Our first differing technique is checkerboarding, and this is very useful for smoother objects such as metal or cloth, anything with a smooth surface. As you can see, it's very simple to produce, and it's probably the most common form of shading in pixel art. All you need to do is just the repeating pattern backwards and forwards like so. Just bring it out by one and then bring it in by one. You can expand the pattern out as far as you like, depending on the size of the image. And if we zoom out a little bit further, you can see that the object has a much smoother gradient as it transitions into the lighter colour at the centre. Although be careful when utilising this technique, because if you use an abundance of it, it can make your game end up looking like an avant-garde chessboard. Our second technique is something I like to call the diffusal displacement method, and it's a little bit more chaotic than the previous. So how you do this is you basically zoom on into your image and then you just randomly displace pixels, so the transition's a lot less seamless than our previous example, which was the checkerboarding. It's a little bit harder to see on a small scale like this, but this is good for more damaged, older, rusted objects. If I zoom out, I can give you a better example. If we zoom on in over here. This is a good example of the diffusal displacement method. You see, you can make the image look a little bit more rusted and decrepit by utilising the more jagged, rougher transition into the lighter colour like so. If you're using this kind of method to create a rust type effect like I have here though, you're going to want to stick to more muted tones. Because if it becomes too shiny, it looks a little bit too new. As you can see, I've had that problem here when experimenting. It doesn't really fit with the image. Before handing this over to the next fellow, I want to personally thank Fairlii for this opportunity and collaboration. I've been looking forward to Lunar Lane for a while and really look forward to seeing what the future holds for it. And I also wish success to all the other wonderful developers in this video.
Thank you to Pupa for that tip. Now let's get on to the next one.
Hey, I'm Jake from State Farm. Just kidding, I'm Jake. I have a YouTube channel focused around game development, and I've just released my latest game, Crosswalk Joyride, on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And I have a quick tip for those of you that use Unity that I personally use all the time. When creating a script for a game object that you know you want to have certain components for, you can use the require components attribute above the class header, and by just typing out require component, give it some parentheses, and then type of, give that some parentheses, and say we wanted to make sure that this script always has a rigid body alongside it on the game object. We can just type in rigid body. So if we were to save that and go back to our scene and click on our game object that we want to add the greatest tips script to, it'll automatically import the rigid body for us. And this will guarantee that we won't get any missing component errors. And even better, it will not let us remove this component because the greatest tip script has a dependency on it. So that's my tip. I hope you guys found it useful, and you guys can follow me on YouTube at Jake McNeal, or you can support me by downloading Crosswalk Joyride on the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store.
Thank you, Jake, for an awesome Unity tip. Now let's get on to tip number 3.
My name's Andrew, and my tip for you is to never stop coding. I have been programming for about 7 years now. And if you're someone who's just started to learn programming, I bet you could probably learn how to code just as good as I can now in a quarter of the time. All it takes is dedication and caring enough to fully learn everything that's going on in a computer and knowing how to control it to its fullest extent. Because at the end of the day, your game is on a computer, and if you don't know how to control that computer in every single way, you're not going to get that specific effect that you might want. So you have to do this. Don't do drag and drops. Don't do nodes and connecting nodes. I mean, you can do that, but you're not going to be able to create that exact effect. You need to know how to code, because that's how you control computers. And without coding, none of that other stuff, none of that pixel art, none of that music, none of that audio is ever going to get its full recognition. So continue to watch YouTube videos, take classes in school or in college or wherever. Learn the terminologies, arguments, parameters, references, whatever. There's so many terminologies, but once you understand them and once you understand the concepts, programming is easy. It is truly easy. That is the tip. Programming is easy. Just care enough to learn it and master it, and you can do it. And if you found this motivating enough, you can follow my Twitter. You don't have to. I prefer you follow Below the Stone. That is actually the project that I'm working on. Anything, any videos, any GIFs you see there, that's my code. And it's also my friend Mike's artwork as well. It's our collaborative work. And if you want, you can also check out our YouTube channel, subscribe, because we'll probably be posting other stuff in the future as well.
Thank you, Andrew, for the awesome tip. Now let's get on to tip number 4.
Hello there, this is Gionathan. I'm the creator of Super Cattails, and my tip to become a better game developer is to impress your audience with a great story. This is something I learned as I was working on my latest game, Super Cattails 2. These days there are so many people making games that it's very difficult to stand out with your unique creation. Tools and engines help us a lot to reach new levels by prototyping games very quickly, even with impressive graphics. So what I think is necessary is to come up with a game that features a great and original story. This is the only way to get to the heart of new players. As I mentioned earlier, this is something I've been trying to achieve the best I could as I was working on my game Super Cattails 2. The trick was not to try too hard. I just had to relax and create something I really liked without trying to emulate other famous games, as there's no point in trying to copy something that's already successful and established among players. So to sum it up, my number 1 tip is to be original. Make games you like, come up with original stories and characters. That's the best way to impress players in an oversaturated market.
And a very huge thank you to Gionathan from Neutronized for that. On to tip number 5.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my tip for this video. My name is Tim, and I want to talk about a cohesive art style. So I play a lot of games on Kongregate, and that is because Kongregate has a lot of cool stuff released on it, and well, I want to stay up to date about what people are making, and I often see cool ideas popping up there. One thing I've noticed about these games is that sometimes they are really rough around the edges in their graphics. What I mean by that is that, for example, we have a game right here. It's doing really well and it's a lot of fun. I'm not in any way saying this is a bad game. I think this is a good game actually. But I think it could improve on the graphics a little bit. And if you look at these graphics, you can see that, for instance, the pixels are a different size and the colors are, well, a little bit all over the place. So if I enter a fight, for example, you can see there's a red and a green right next to each other, which clashes a little bit because they're opposite colors. Yeah, and also, well, there's a lot of UI which just looks a little bit sharper than the enemies. So on the one hand, it makes the enemies pop out, but on the other hand, it looks a little bit messy. Well, one way you can fix this really easily in your game is by limiting the colors you pick. For instance, if you're a beginner, you could just pick like 3 colors or 4. I saw a game a while back. I think I will put some footage over this, and it was just black and white. And I remember it looked really cool because it was a cohesive art style right away. Because, well, it's just everything was grayscale, I think, but maybe there were a couple of colors, or maybe the magic was white. Well, I will put some images over this. I have another game from Kongregate right here, and as you can see, every pixel is the same size, so even the fonts have the same size of pixels as the main game itself. talking about colors, you can see that the hands of the knight here have a little bit, I think they are the same shade of red, but maybe they are really similar, or maybe they're the same. They look the same at least. So yeah, I think this is a great example of a cohesive art style. Everything has the same pixel size and colors that fit really well. And if you want to achieve this for your game, I would advise that you make every pixel, if you are doing pixel art, the same size. I think that's really important for a game because it has to feel like one whole. So if you make a game, it's better to have everything be, well, the same kind of ugly. That's what I'm aiming for, that everything is like simplistic and not too pretty, because I do really simple pixel art. But if everything is the same kind of ugly, then at least it's one whole. So it feels like one game. Well, anyway, that was my tip. You can follow me on YouTube. I think my channel is still called Tim Commandeur. But it could also be that I have made my channel named GameMaker Tim by now. So, well, you can look me up. I do a lot of devlogs for my game Arcade Wizard. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of the video.
Thank you, Tim, for that. Now it's time for tip number 6.
Hey guys, this is Mike from Below the Stone. I wanted to give a tip that would be something that was simple, but all aspiring game devs should know. My biggest tip, and it's gonna be boring, is to start simple. Developers start their first project. I've noticed a lot of people go, oh, I want to make a procedurally generated open world MMORPG. A lot of people fall into this trap where they become unmotivated when they get stuck on that. It's a learning process, so you don't do it all at once. You take small steps and perfect your craft. Whether it's coding, whether it's art, you're gonna learn in baby steps. So as time goes on, you'll realize how important a pitch is, or you'll realize how important the marketing side of making a game is. It's not just about making the game sometimes, it's about the marketing too, and getting it into players' hands. And I hope you guys enjoy. Check out Below the Stone. So that was my game dev tip, and here's to the next tip.
Thank you, Mike, for that tip. Let's get on to tip number 7.
Hey, I am a floating head from DoorHallGames and I will give you some beginner advice on 3D modeling.
Okay, let's do it.
First you have to decide what to model.
I want to make a bomb.
Oh, okay, that was terrifyingly fast. Well, now search for reference pictures.
Hopefully I won't get arrested this time.
What? Anyways, choose a picture you especially like and break it down to its basic geometry in any drawing software.
Seems easy. First I'll draw the head, erase some details, and I'm done.
That was a pretty weird way to draw a circle, but fine. Export that picture and open the modeling software of your choice. We'll do it with Blender. Let's set up the reference image. Delete the cube. Press 1 on your numpad to change to front orthographic view. Then Shift and A, go to Image, Background. Look for the picture you have made. Press G and Z to move it up a little bit. What should we do next, guy? That's definitely not me with a lower pitched voice.
I don't know. Maybe try to imitate the shapes I've drawn with 3D geometric shapes.
Exactly. Start with the biggest part, the body of the bomb. Shift and A to add a sphere. Then change your mouse to cursor mode and click the place on the bomb where you want to add the rest. Shift and A to add a cylinder. Scale it with S and move it with G until you are pleased. Now repeat the same process for the rope and you are done.
Wow, thanks man. That was actually really easy.
I know, right? If you like this quick tutorial, you can check out my channel. At the moment I am doing a devlog series, but I've planned a lot more for the future. Subscribe to Fairlii if you haven't already.
I got you a present for helping me.
Aw, that's nice of you. What is it?
The bomb.
Ouch.
Thank you, strange floating head, for that tip. Let's get on to tip number 8. That guy kind of scares me.
Hey everyone, my name is Artindi and this is my tip. Get good at game design. Okay, no, that's not really my tip, but better said, my tip is how to get good at game design. I'm going to list a bunch of things and I'm going to put them up on the screen one at a time, and at the end I'll have them all up there and you can just put a piece of paper on your screen and trace it. No, I'm just kidding. But I will list them. I'll put them all up there. In the meantime, I'm going to make it easy on myself and just play clips of me playing video games in the background. So don't judge. I might suck at playing, but I'd say I'm pretty decent at making. Watch anything and everything on the subject of game design, such as video essays, devlogs from other developers, postmortems, which is a kind of video that describes what a developer thinks they did well or wrong with a game they've already released, or GDC talks, which those are really good. And GDC stands for something, probably Game Dev Conference. Is that what it? I don't even know. Play lots of games. This is the same for any hobby or profession. If you want to get good at something, especially if it's making something, then you want to participate a lot in the consumption of that same thing. That works for most hobbies, actually. Maybe not so much for cake. It'll just make you fat. But if you want to get good at making games, then of course you want to play games, but not just play them, you want to analyze them. In fact, I'm going to make that number 3. Analyze the games you play. Look for the good and look for the bad things in those games. First, play the game without analyzing it, because you won't have any fun if you're just analyzing it the whole time. Trust me, I know this. I can't even really have fun when I play games anymore because I'm just looking at them. But look for the good, look for the bad. Specifically, avoid the things that are what's the word for it? Avoid the things that are superficial. So we're gonna take Minecraft for example, which is purely coincidentally playing on the screen right now. We're gonna take Minecraft for an example. The superficial things for Minecraft might be like, hey, it's a blocky world. It's a blocky sandbox game. There's a 3x3 crafting table, right? You might make a game like this, but all that's going to happen is you're going to have a game that looks like Minecraft and feels like Minecraft. Instead, for Minecraft, the good things that you're going to look for are perhaps high versatility in the types of players that can play, high modability, or maybe high synergy between the different blocks that exist in the game. It is a sandbox game after all, so you want the different elements in the game to have high synergy. So look for the good things in a game that are not specific to that game that you can implement in your games. Also look for the bad things. You definitely want to see what's not good in a video game and avoid doing that. Do these things and you can get better at game design, and when you get better at game design, your games are going to be way more impressive. Anyway, that's my tip for you. Hopefully you enjoyed watching my little clip. If you want to follow me, then you can find me on YouTube under my name, Artindi. Have a beautiful day. Enjoy the rest of the tips, unless I'm the last one.
Thank you, Artindi, for that. Now let's go to tip number 9.
Hey there, how's it going? My name is Nick, and I make games and devlogs here on YouTube under the name Vimlark. My tip is something that I use all the time to make my characters just that little bit more dynamic without having to add a lot of extra animation frames. In animation, squash and stretch is really one of the core principles to indicate movement and impact. And I found a great way to add that effect to my characters without too much extra work. So let's start by taking a look at the difference. Here we see our character moving with no squash and stretch. It looks fine, he runs around, he jumps, and he falls. But there's not really much impact to any of it. So now let's go ahead and turn the squash and stretch on. Now we can see as he jumps, he squishes and kinda bounces. The same with when he lands. Also when he runs into a wall, and it just kinda adds an extra effect. I also have it set up where if he drops from a large height, he squishes even more. So once again, here's the difference. Squash off, squash on. Okay, so let's quickly take a look at how this is put together. All you need is your player collision box and your player art. They do need to be separate because we have to change the dimension of the player art, and we definitely don't want to be changing the dimensions of our player collision box while it's moving. I set my collision box to not be visible, and I pin my player art to it so it always moves along with it. The player art gets 2 instance variables associated with it: start width and start height. And then if we jump over to our event sheets, we can see how this all works together. So on the start of layout, we set the player's start width and start height to its actual width and height. This gives us our base sprite size to return to after we do the squashing and stretching. For the actual squash, I just have a function set up called player squash. It calls in 3 parameters: width mod, height mod, and the duration. I don't know if it's the same in other engines, but in Construct, when something is mirrored, its width is actually converted to a negative, so I just have a secondary condition here to account for that. So when the player squash function is called, we change the size of the player art by its current size, plus whatever the modifier is for both the width and the height. Then we wait the duration, and then we set the size back to the original start width and height. And that's pretty much all of it. Here are some examples of how I'm calling the function for the character we just saw. For jumping, I actually make 2 function calls. First, to squish the player down, by increasing its width and shortening its height. Then we wait for that to happen, and then we call it again to make the width thinner than the original size and make it taller. That gives it the little popping effect that you see. For when the player lands, I have a counter going so I can increase the squash depending on how long the player was falling. The only difference here is depending on how long the player is falling, I increase the amount that it's squished. And the same for running into walls. So hopefully you found this useful, and good luck on your projects. If you'd like to hear more from me, I'm Vimlark pretty much everywhere on the internet, here on YouTube, Twitter, and Itch. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Later.
Thank you, Nick. And finally, tip number 10.
Hello friends, my name is Zach, and my tip is ducks. Lots of ducks. Okay, maybe not that many ducks, but my point is that you should think about how you can work marketable things into your game's design as early as possible, like ducks. Because animals doing goofy stuff is so #hot right now, but it could be anything. Think about what might motivate your players to come to your game and what emotions you want them to feel, and then try cater your design towards that. Then show it off on Twitter, Imgur, Reddit, even Discord, and see what people think. If no one's responding well to your game, think about why that might be. If no one's on board with your concept now, not much is going to change when you actually finish the dang game. If you're interested in more marketing tips, Lauren Clinic has a great GCAP talk where she talks about this sort of stuff.
So there you have it. Thank you to every single one of the people that joined the video. Check the description, look at all their links, subscribe to all of them, like their videos, check out their projects. You guys know you want to do that, and you know I only upload once every 1 to 2 weeks, so you guys got extra time to watch extra people, right? Anyways, thank you guys so much for 1K, here's to 2K, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!
Hey guys, my tip is stinky, poopy, and that's the ending of the video.